Hi guys, welcome back. Thank you for joining me again today. So what I wanted to look at doing is making some Oobleck. Now I've only done this once before, yesterday actually. I did some kind of experimenting with it just to get an idea for it. So my plan is we're going to make up some Oobleck. Got these water balloons here. We're going to try filling those up and using some of our projectiles against them and just try to have some fun today. So we're going to go ahead and start by mixing up our Oobleck here. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm looking for red. I just got some red food coloring at the dollar store. So I'm going to put a good amount in here because I want it to have a nice deep red color. Got our water, and I'm gonna go ahead and, yesterday I was starting with the water and then trying to add the cornstarch. I think I'm gonna go ahead and try to work the other way around. So I'm gonna start by adding a good amount of cornstarch, with a couple cups. And then we're just gonna pour a little bit of our water in. And we're just gonna start working it in. I definitely found that it wasn't even worth trying to use like a spoon or some sort of, tool to mix it up because it clumps up so quickly that you might as well just go right in with your hand. I like the color, it's very red. Now, as most of you know, Oobleck is what's known as a non-Newtonian fluid, which means basically, when you exert pressure on it, it becomes more viscous or more thick, which is also why it's known, or what's called, a shear thickening liquid, which is also what makes it difficult about stirring, because the harder you try to stir it, the harder it becomes. So you do just kind of have to go slow and steady. Just a little bit more. Especially don't want this too thick because, again, once we go to try to put it in the balloons, if it's too thick, then it's going to be impossible to actually get it to flow down into the balloons. Alright. I like this consistency pretty well. I'll try to show you here. It's just nice and red. Alright. So now what I'm going to go ahead and do is wash this hand. Be back in just a sec. Okay guys, so we're all cleaned up now. I got a little bit of a red stained hand, but we knew that was coming, so no big deal. So now comes the fun part. Now I've got just an empty condiment dispenser here. It does have a very narrow hole to it, so I'm a little worried whether or not it's even going to be able to go through it, but we're going to give this a shot. So first, let's go ahead and just try filling our condiment container here. Again, this is thinner than I would normally make it, but for what we're trying to do with it, it does need to be a little bit thinner. Put this back in here for right now. Try not to make too big of a mess. Alright, let's try filling some balloons. Try to fit this on here a good way, try to get a good tight seal as good as I can. What do you think, guys? Think it's working well? Looks like time to regroup, figure out plan B. Okay guys, so we've upgraded our bottle a little bit. Now I'm expecting this to make quite a bit of a mess, so let's try doing this one over the bowl and keep our fingers crossed and see how this goes. I'm actually going to try to put a little bit of extra air in here. I don't know if this is going to work or if I'm going to get a mouthful of Oobleck. Yeah, I was able to get a little bit in there. Alright, one down, half dozen more to go. Okay guys, so we've got a couple of our balloons filled up here, so I figured let's go ahead and we'll head outside and we'll try a couple of different projectiles on them to see how they react. Okay guys, so before we step outside I just figured I'd take a second to go through our projectiles that we're going to be using today. So the first is a Blowdart shooter that I have, and the first round that we're going to be using is actually a rounded tipped round. It's actually not meant for penetration, it's more blunt force kind of round, so because it'll be, I'll just be using the power of my lungs, that's going to be our slowest moving projectile, so I figure we'll start with that. Next I have a slingshot that I've used, and I have two different rounds. One is a fairly small but decently sized metal ball that we'll be using, and then I also have an orange rubber round that is slightly bigger than our metal round, but because it is rubber it's going to be moving a little bit slower, which then brings us to our last projectile, which is going to be a Co2 pistol. Now that also is going to be firing a round metal round, however it is smaller than the one coming out of our slingshot, but it's also coming out at a lot faster speed. So we're just going to see how these four different projectiles interact with our Oobleck balloons.
Bye.